right, we are ready.
All right, 7 o'clock, November 2nd, 2020. We'll call this special work session for Little Falls City Council to order. We are all here. Public forum is temporarily suspended due to the COVID-19 emergency. Bill discussion. Does anyone have any questions with the bills?
For a convention visitor bureau, $30,000 for small business advertising. What is that about?
That is something the EDA approved through our COVID CARES funding. And it's, the CBB applied for some funding to help the small businesses advertise in the visitor's guide. Some of them had paid for and done the advertising. And then with the COVID, the books weren't able to get out. And so they made an application to EDA for some funding, and the EDA approved that. So it should allow for 2 years of advertising for some of our local businesses in the visitors guide.
Okay.
Any other questions? Consent agenda items. Anyone have questions with the consent agenda items? Short tonight. Only 3 things. There's no questions on the consent agenda. Council informational only items. 2021 project consideration discussions. Mr. Kimmon.
Evening. So in front of you this evening, I just wanted to kind of discuss a little bit about our 2021 projects. There's a couple of pots of money that we're looking at going after. We do have money available in our state aid account. That's money that the state gives us to use on our state aid roads specifically. And then there's also another grant program that's coming up, which is the Local Road Improvement Program. And I'm looking at going after that grant program. You'll actually be getting a application probably in a couple months here, but I wanted to kind of start the process a little bit early so that we're prepared for it. But there's really 2 projects that I've kind of got on the docket that I'd like to do next year. One is 11th Street Northeast. That one's the main project that I'm looking at. And then the other one is 18th Street Southeast, the extension of 18th Street, basically from Marianne Avenue south over to the Airport Road or 138th Street. I'd like to use the Local Road Improvement Program for 11th Street if we're awarded those funds. If not, then I would like to use the state aid funds for that for 11th Street. If we are awarded those local road improvement funds, then I'd look to use the state aid funds on 18th Street Southeast, that extension, just to kind of make that loop road, bring some connectivity to the north and south part of Highway 27, and kind of get that stretch taken care of. I know we've been talking about 18th Street for quite some time, but it's getting to a point where I think it's could become a reality with that extension of 138th that the county did, and the development that's going on up in our business developer industrial park in the northeast part of town. So if the council's agreeable to it, I'd like to at least start the process of discussing with those landowners that own the property in regards to possibly purchasing the right-of-way. Right now we have that right-of-way that is, it's annexed into the city, but it's not owned or used by the city. It's actually still property that private property owners maintain and use. There's one stretch that we do own, but 3 parcels that we do not, that we have to acquire.
What are you looking for from us, Greg?
Just kind of a consensus in regards to at least being able to just start that discussion with the property owners to see if we could purchase that land. Ultimately, when we get to construction, we would have to obviously go to the council and have it's much bigger tax or dollar item that we're looking at. But right now, just give me the green light to go ahead and that connection with those property owners to see if they'd be willing to sell to the city. And then at that point, if they are, should negotiate a price and then come back to the council to get approval for purchasing that property.
I I think it's a great idea. I'm on that new road past the airport frequently now, and I'm looking at all the potential for lots and homes along that road. And then I look towards 18th Street and see what a great connection that would be, and make it even more, I guess, a better area to live, and for the city to expand on housing and gain more property taxes.
Correct.
I agree too.
Would it be hopefully to begin constructing the road next year, or just getting the property next year?
I would like to begin construction next year or in 21 or 22. Hopefully, if everything goes right, we could do it in 21. If we get the local road improvement funds for 11th Street, then we would be able to shift those funds. We'd be able to shift the state aid funds to 18th Street and get that constructed as well. So ideally, I'd like to do 11th and 18th Street in 21, but obviously there's a couple of things that have to come into play or into place in order to make that happen.
And Greg, you've already started the process for the financial part of it?
So that doesn't come out for another couple of months, the grant portion of it. The state aid portion, we do have those funds in our state aid account, and so that we would be able to do that. The question that I would have is whether or not we're going to put those state aid funds to 11th Street or to 18th Street. And I feel that 11th Street is a much better option in terms of getting the local road improvement funds, the grant funds, and so that's what we're going to start with to see if we can get that to work out in our favor.
That would be good.
I have a question, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Greg, how does this impact the schedule of the reconstruction projects planned for the next few years?
It really doesn't. So the local road improvements and the state aid funds, the state aid funds can only be used on state aid roads. So there's a number of roads that we have, roughly 20% of our roads are state aid eligible. We can only use state aid funds on those streets. It doesn't allow us to use those funds on our infrastructure, so underground utilities or anything like that. It's just the surfacing, basically the blacktop to gravel and the grading portion of it. And so by putting it towards 11th Street and or 18th Street, we're able to take advantage of that and use those dollars to put towards it. So it really doesn't impact our infrastructure projects that we're looking at too.
Okay.
And next year, we really don't have a whole lot in terms of infrastructure. Potentially, we would be talking about infrastructure on 18th Street, but those would be a city-borne cost. We don't have those fully vetted in terms of how far that's going to be. That would be a discussion we would have to have. But yes, it wouldn't impact our infrastructure projects.
Okay, so then I saved an email I got from you in February with the 5-year plan.
Yep.
And next year on the list is some segments in the southeast part of town. Are those still in the plans, or has that been shifted?
It's been shifted a bit just based on what's happened in the last couple of years. Next year, what we're looking at is Oak Street. We've got a petition to do Oak Street in the northeast part of town. We're looking at doing the trail along Pine Avenue. We're also looking at doing a stretch of road on 3rd Street southeast between 1st Avenue and 3rd Avenue. And then from 3rd Avenue to 4th Street. That's in preparation of our 4th Street Southeast project that we're doing conjunctively with the county in 2022. What else we got?
Well, 3rd Street needs it so bad.
I know, and that's where I'm going with this. Some of these projects I feel are getting hijacked by petition projects, i.e. the Sunrise project. So we keep delaying these, and I have people in my neighborhood, and Raquel's in the same neighborhood and actually on that street. I mean, we keep pushing this back in lieu of other projects, and so I guess I'm gonna ask for an updated list.
Yeah, and so a lot of it's going to depend on how much do we want to bond. The bonding costs really take care of a lot of the city costs, or the city board costs. It doesn't impact the state aid account, and it doesn't impact if we get any grant funds from the local improvement. But those are two pots of money that I'd like to tie in for these two particular projects, 11th Street and 18th Street. But to answer your question directly, it doesn't impact our infrastructure projects.
Well, but it does. I mean, if you're not planning those southeast projects for next year, then it does, because that's the last list I got from you.
We can still do them if the city council wants to bond for that much. But just looking at what we've bonded in the past, I've kind of pulled back a little bit. So if we're willing to bond for them, we can definitely do it.
Well, like I said, if you would please, something I'd like to keep track of, if you could give me an updated five-year plan then, and then, I don't know if you've been around, but you might want to factor this in. I mean, here's speculation, but about 20 acres on 6th Street Southeast, the Erdrich property is up for sale. And I can't imagine anybody that buys that is going to keep it as open space. So we're going to be looking at, my guess is some kind of planned unit development going in there at some point.
And 3rd Street, it was dug up right at 2nd Avenue. It was also dug up over at 5th Avenue. And, you know, there's pieces of curb missing and huge patches and gravel spots, and 3rd Street is a mess. It's just a mess.
3rd Street is one of our priority areas that needs to get taken care of, I agree.
And, you know, I live on that street, and that means, you know, my assessments, I'm gonna get assessed big because I've got a pretty big bump, but I hate the thought of that bill, but boy, we need a new street.
Yep.
We need a new street. All those pipes under there are so old, they date back to 1900, and yeah, we still have clay pipes down there, so.
Don't ride a bicycle in the nighttime down that road.
I know, you'll flip over your handlebars when you hit a bump.
Greg, I have a question for you back to 18th Street. We have a transportation advisory committee meeting coming up soon. Is there any potential? I know we were overlooked last year, and there's almost this agreement that we could potentially get dollars for that 18th Street project, which could be somewhat significant, or would we have to wait another year on that?
I'm actually looking at a different stretch for that. I'm looking at 4th Street for that stretch, 4th Street Northeast. We were kind of shot down for 18th Street last time around, and so I'm looking at 4th Street. I think that'll give us a little bit more bolster to our application, just because the county will have recently reconstructed 4th Street Southeast. We can use that traffic volume that they have on 4th Street Southeast to show the northeast portion of it as well. And so I think that'll give us a little bit higher ranking when we put that application in. But that's usually 5 years out is that program, so they apply now. And then 5 years from now is when we get those funds, and so that's what I'm looking at for that one.
Got it.
Yep.
Sourcewell Executive Board nomination. Mayor.
My position is up for re-election at the end of this year. I would love to serve another 4 years. I am Vice Chair of the Sourcewell Board. I am Chair of the Sourcewell Technology Board, and Mr. Hercock and I are both on the Board of Trustees, which is the insurance pool. I think we've done some great things for the area and for the community. We used to have Steve Jones and John Rademacher, and Mark Kirby was on the board. And so our representation for our area has slightly diminished, and I would seek the support of the council to participate once again or be nominated. Last time there was 4 others ran against me. John, I don't know if you want to speak at all to the Sourcewell group.
Sure. Yes. In my time as an ex officio on that board, I got to see a lot of, how the board operates and what everything that Sourcewell can do and serve for us. And I really, it's incredible the opportunities that they can bring for communities throughout our region, and the services that they can provide. It's not something that many areas across the state or even nation have that luxury to have an organization like them that is bringing the resources and then reinvesting those funds into our region. You know, all of the work that they've done in health insurance for us, the wellness programs. We've been meeting with employees throughout the course of today, and they provide $250 towards those wellness benefits that we provide to the employees. They also provide a grant if we meet certain achievements for employee engagement on that area. So I mean, we're funding most of that through a lot of the dollars that Sourcewell is providing, all the cooperative purchasing efforts that we do, innovation funding. I mean, it's incredible. But like the mayor said, I mean, when I was on there, Steve Jones, Mark Gerby, and the mayor we had a pretty strong Little Falls representation in that on that board. And you know, without another nominee, I think that's going to certainly change the dynamic of who's going to serve, you know, from our area. And not that I would say board members are, you know, advocating directly for direct benefit, but it's certainly they can speak to the needs of our area versus the needs of some other place within the 5-county region that Sourcewell is really covering as a whole. So. You know, I am a firm believer in the work that they're doing and all the great things that they can bring back to our community. And I've seen the mayor's work that he's done as a board member and all the changes and things that they've gone through in the last, you know, 5 years since I've been in this community. So it's really incredible, and there's you know, continued opportunities and growth. So having somebody on there is definitely beneficial to us.
So John, if we'd like to nominate the mayor to be on Sourcewell again, is that something we need at a regular meeting?
So I'm not certain in the past they've had.
I'm pretty sure we had the forms in chambers and we just passed in. I don't.
Yeah.
My recollection is it wasn't any. We just have a vote. Not that there wasn't any official action.
Yeah.
I would also point out that under work requirements and characteristics, section C, line 7, it says, talk or hear, continuously.
I'm good at one of them.
Have my support, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mine as well.
Do we just need to stop in the city hall and fill out the form at some point, or are you somebody gonna email those out?
We can email them out to the council members, and then if you can just complete them and send them back to Wendy, she'll compile them and then send them in.
Yeah,
So I will touch base with Wendy so she gets those forms out.
Yeah, I think we could probably send them out through an Adobe sign or something so that you can just electronically complete them and get them back to us.
That'd be great. Thank you. Budget meeting, Monday, November 30th, 2028, 6 p.m. John and Lori.
Yes, so would that be a viable date? That's the 5th Monday of the month, so you know, typically we have Mondays tend to be more open for us. Looking for that to kind of be our final meeting. You know, having that schedule, and then I could make a pledge. I wouldn't say promise that I'll keep my budget hearing, public hearing, a little bit shorter during the final meeting, or that when we finalize the levy in December. But things are coming along. Contract negotiations right now with all the bargaining groups are progressing, so that's probably right now the biggest unknowns that we have in terms of potential cost impacts to the budget. But you know, taking in all the input that we received from the last budget meeting, I think I've gathered a lot of valuable feedback. We found some areas where we can make some reductions, and working really hard to keep the levy get the levy to as close as zero as we can. I would would be hopeful that we'd have at least maybe a preliminary number from the county for the market valuations, so then we could kind of do some kind of work around the potential tax rate. But as I think I've said before, knowing the way that tax rates are calculated or tax capacity is calculated, and that it's really a lagging number based on sales from the previous year. I don't really see a way that impact is gonna, in property values, is gonna be going down for our next year's tax calculation. So it's gonna be, we're in a position where our tax rate is very likely going to be zero or even less, even a decrease again, just because we're going to see that tax valuations, the total taxable valuations go up in 2021, despite what we're experiencing in terms of a recession. Now, that's not to say that we should take advantage of that and still not be responsible in reducing some expenses for next year, but it definitely is going to lead to a factor in 2022 if all of a sudden we cut a lot and then try to bring it all back into the budget, or a bunch of it back into the budget alignment in 2022, and then market valuations decline. We'll see our tax rate go way down to shoot way back up. And I've often talked about my philosophy around the budgeting process, and not to try to make us go through roller coasters of tax levies and have things change really dramatically up and down in any given years or consecutive years. But that's just what I'm foreseeing and what I'm hearing in terms of the various forecasting, League of Minnesota Cities, the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, the work that's being done on those parts around what we're facing in terms of financial impacts due to coronavirus.
That date and time would work for me. I don't know if it will for other people.
Works for me.
I'm in.
I think it should be okay.
Okay.
Let's have it then.
All right. Thank you.
Construction observation report for August 2020. Short Elliott Hendrickson. So I guess you're doing that, Greg?
Yes, so in your packet there, we have the construction observation report. There's been obviously a lot of progress at the plant. You can see in the pretreatment building there where the grass was painted green, the earth was established. You can start to see some of the grass starting to grow now that the snow was big. The picture right below that is a digester. They've got one half of that completed. They've got the aluminum cover on top, and they started using that, I think it was about a week and a half ago. So that's now in operation as well. So things are starting to move along with the waste plant as far as being able to see how it performs with the intended processes that are in place. We've got the new oxidation ditch up and running, the digester that's going, which should take away most of the smell that we've been seeing with our old facility. And so now we're able to see what type of sludge that our plant is going to be producing. So all in all, it's going along nicely.
Good. Any questions? Any other items?
Yeah, I have a couple items. I was talking to Randy Newis. He said he got a hold of City Hall concerning 6th Avenue Northwest, right off from 8th Street Northwest, heading west. And there's a city property that goes about halfway back to his property, and it's not being maintained. He had to pull people out of city property twice last summer because it was so bad. And he also says he has a wife that has dialysis she has to deal with if that road isn't plowed out. It kind of lets them stranded there. And he would like you to consider taking a look at it, get back to him, see what can be done with that. The only other thing I was going to mention is a lot of people feel there should be an ordinance on leaves, which requires, because we require people to mow the lawn, maybe they should be required to rake their leaves also, because some people rake up their leaves only to watch their neighbor's leaves blow in right after they do it. One person said he's raked his whole lawn 4 times and it's just getting nowhere. So anyway, them were the 2 items I was gonna bring up.
Anyone, anything else, or any other constituent messages?
I have a question, Council President. I was over at the ball fields a couple weeks ago. My husband and I like to drive around, look at the city. And it's right behind the bus garage, the school bus garage. And when you're at the ball fields, they have a chain link fence there, but there's a mess behind that fence. All those trucks and everything's all parked back there. It looks like a junkyard. Can we get them to put up a privacy fence instead of a chain link fence so that you don't have to look at that from the ball field?
I think that, Raquel, I think all the trees that were planted there in front of that chain link fence there, eventually that is supposed to block that all out. That was the intent of planting all those trees there, is to have them grow up and then shield that whole area off there.
Okay. Because it really is ugly.
Yes, it is. I get to see a lot of it.
Yeah, we see it every day.
I walk by there all the time, I agree.
So Mr. President, the only question that I have, I don't know if it's for this time here or whatever, but the program that we approved our last meeting with SmartGov, I think it is, with being able to locate all of our complaints and all this stuff in the one system. You know, I got that email from Tom Gertz, Little Falls, that basically said they can almost do the same thing, and the price on that was a heck of a lot lower. And I don't know, because I didn't do much more research into that, but is that comparing apples to apples? I mean, is that a system that you know, does the same thing that we approved, or is it too late to change it to shop locally here? I don't know, it's just a question to throw out.
Yeah, I'll address that, and I can forward you to some of the response that I had already crafted to other council members that emailed me directly. I wasn't included on the message from Mr. Gertz, but looking at what they've had for software solutions, there definitely is a component that is very comparable, and that would be on the zoning permitting side. I know that is something that they look at, but in terms of the other pieces, I didn't see in offerings that they had that it was really directly comparable, especially on the complaints management side. Not to say that they're not capable of developing something, but this is coming from a firm that is already very well established. They have customers and services that they're providing all over the world, not just in the United States. So they're definitely quite a ways along on the way that software is developed, and this is something that I've been looking at least on the planning zoning side, different varieties of that and how it's developed over the last 4 years, and I've really seen them develop now to something that I think is really usable, and we did have a team that was doing a lot of the reviews on the existing software we had. And I'll admit that RT Vision wasn't on our radar when we were doing our review process, which started over a year ago. So at that time, what I've known of them for doing planning and zoning work was really primarily in county government, not as much on city government. So it was something that I would say that, yeah, we certainly didn't give them the review that they probably deserve for the zoning permit software of that side, but I don't know if I could say that based on the review that I've done, that they have the same software solution that we are implementing that on the code enforcement piece, as well as what their integrations with our systems are going to be. I didn't see that list, them directly list any Tyler technology products or Encode financial systems of how that could integrate with our systems. So I don't know, they may have means to do that sort of integration, but I don't know.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Mr. President, I was wondering that same thing, so my question is how did these bids go out, to these different companies so that at least they could come in and try to compete with some of these other businesses? And if we can keep something more local, why don't we do that?
Yeah, so the process that we use here wasn't a formal RFP process. This was really just staff reviewing a variety of software options that are available. I mean, I usually, most years, go to conferences and view they have an exhibit hall and vendors there that serve in that exhibit hall. So I know in the last ICMA conference, that was one of my main goals of researching the exhibit halls and finding any vendors that might be doing that work. And they're, got contacts with a few different ones that do that work, and research, had them do demonstrations with our staff on the software that they had. I know this was something, there was a former employee for RT Vision that had contacted me about this over 3 years ago, that it was something that they did, and at that time we weren't looking at instituting a zoning and permit software, but I know since then that employee left, and it was just, again, like I said, it wasn't on my radar to have them do a demonstration or proposal of what their software solution could do.
Mr. President, if I may, I can echo John's sentiment in terms of going to the City Engineers Conference this past year in January of 2020 and reaching out to other engineering companies and cities, communities, and finding out what they were using for permitting. And that's kind of how we developed the folks that we did, is just based on discussion with what everybody else was using.
It is late enough. We're going to adjourn our special work session and go right into our regular city council meeting of November 2nd, 2020. We are all here. Let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All individuals are asked to either silence or turn off cell phones, pagers, and other electronic devices that may disrupt the meeting. Approval of the agenda. Approve the agenda as posted in accordance with the open meeting law, and herein place all agenda items on the table for discussion. What's the wish of the
President,
council?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilmember Hanson, second by Councilmember Lundberg. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Wildegren,
Yes.
Lundberg,
Yes.
Bilka,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Storley,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bushek.
Yes.
Carries.
Approval of the minutes, special work session meeting of October 19, 2020, and the regular meeting of October 19, 2020, and the recessed meeting of October 22nd, 2020. Approved. What is the wish of the council?
Move to approve?
Second.
I'm not sure who the second was.
Wayne?
A motion by Councilmember Knopfler, second by Councilmember Liljegren. Call the roll, please.
Wildegren,
Yes.
Lundberg,
Yes.
Bilka,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Storley,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bushek,
Yes.
Knopfler.
Yes.
Carries.
Approval of the bills, checks 103604 through 103682, totaling $829,160.74. Approved. What is the wish of the council?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Goshek, second by Councilmember Storley. Call the roll, please.
Lundberg,
Yes.
Zilka,
Yes.
Berka,
Yes.
Dorley,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bushik,
Yes.
Knappala,
Yes.
Hildebrand.
Yes.
Carries.
Awards, donations, presentations, and proclamations. We have none tonight. Consent agenda. Airport Commission minutes, October 2020 received. Building report, September 2020 received. Public Works report, September 2020 received. What is the wish of the council?
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
Motion by Councilmember Hanson, second by Councilmember Lundberg. Call roll, please.
Zilka,
Yes.
Berka,
Yes.
Dorley,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bushik,
Yes.
Knappala,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Lundberg.
yes.
Carries.
Public hearings and lettings. Number 1, antenna replacements, West Water Tower, Kilmer Electric Company Incorporated. Ratify and confirm. Greg.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The first on the item here for public hearings and lettings is the antenna replacement for the West Water Tower. Currently, the city has 3 antennas over on the West Tower that serve the city needs. It does not have those ones for cellular, those are separate. But the 3 antennas that we have over there are for our water meters, our wastewater, and then one for the water tower itself for the levels. We have 1 antenna currently up there that has been replaced. The other 2 are going to be up there shortly, moved from the temporary pole up to the West Tower. And so this evening, we are asking the council to ratify and confirm. We did give the contractor, Kilmer Electric, the go-ahead to get everything ordered, and so that they could get it on the schedule to get those moved over, because obviously when Verizon and T-Mobile want to take that temporary pole down, our stuff has to be out there before that happens. And so we gave them the go-ahead to get that going so that we could get the stuff out as soon as possible. The amount is $15,750, and that would be split evenly between the water department and the wastewater department to get those 2 antennas replaced back onto the West Tower.
What is the wish of the council?
I move to ratify and confirm.
Motion by Councilmember Lundberg, second by Councilmember Liljegren. Any discussion?
Mr. President, I would just like a confirmation here. Sounded like Greg said that they were already ordered, so it would appear to me here we have another example of where something needed to be done, and it's already done. You know, so what choice is there here?
So with this particular one, it's in order to save time, because like I
How long has
mentioned,
this project been going on?
about 4 months.
Okay, thank you.
Call roll, please.
Berka,
Yes.
Dorley,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bushik,
Yes.
Knappala,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Lundberg,
Yes.
Zilka.
Yes.
Carries.
Sampler Wastewater Tech Sales Company Award. Greg.
At the wastewater treatment facility, we currently have a number of samplers. One of the samplers that we have is over 25 years old. We are looking at replacing that with a newer sampler. The new sampler will allow us to do basically a 24-hour composite, so we'll break it into, I think it's 4-hour chunks, so 6 bottles. It allows us to more identify what time the pollutant is coming into the waste facility. We did receive quotes. We have 2 quotes, one from Tech Sales and one from Hawk Company. The low quote came from Tech Sales in the amount of $5,309. We are asking for approval this evening, and that would be charged to the wastewater repair maintenance fund.
What is the wish of the council?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Storey, second by Councilmember Hanson. Any discussion? Call the roll, please. Oh, go ahead.
How long do these usually last, Greg? I mean, $5,309. What can we expect life expectancy?
I mean, the last one was 25 years old. That's pretty long for a sampler. I would say probably 15 to 20 is more realistic. So it'll last us about 15 to 20 years.
Thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Storley,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bushik. Bushik,
Yes.
Knopfler, Hildebrand,
Yes, too.
Lundberg,
Yes.
Zilka,
Yes.
Hurkacz.
Yes.
Carries.
Old business petition, discontinue maintenance, alley block 43 Thayers edition. Approved. Craig.
We received a petition to discontinue the maintenance activities on Block 43, both the summer maintenance as well as the winter maintenance. Staff has reviewed the petition and see no reason why we should not grant that approval. So this evening we are recommending to the council that we approve their request and discontinue the maintenance on that particular alley.
What is the wish of the council?
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Storey, second by Councilmember Hanson. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bushik,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Lundberg,
Yes.
Zilka,
Yes.
Hurkacz,
Yes.
Storley.
Yes.
Carries.
Purchase 2021 Ford F-450 Midway Ford wastewater, amended and approved. Craig.
Yes, back on January 20th or 21st, I don't remember the exact date, but the second meeting in January that we had, the council approved a new pickup truck. It's a 1.5-ton pickup truck for the wastewater facility. This is the pickup that we use for our crane when we pull all the pumps. For some reason or another, there was some miscommunication at the dealership and myself in terms of being able to order that particular vehicle. And so with COVID, it all got messed up and jumbled up into short. The vehicle didn't get ordered. So when we heard that the vehicle didn't get ordered, we started looking to see when we'd be able to order the next vehicle for it. It turns out right now is when we're being able to allow to order the 2021 model years of this particular vehicle. It's a Ford F-450 that we're looking at purchasing. When we looked at the apples to apples between the two, the 21 and the 20 model, the 2021 was actually about $20 some cheaper. But when we started looking at the options that we did select for the 20 model, we noticed that it did not have a second battery and it had a little bit smaller alternator than we would prefer because our crane is hydraulic over electric, so it uses a lot of electric power. When we added those two components to the 21 model, it increased it, I think, $290. And so we're asking the council to to modify the motion that was made in January to currently have the correct total for our 2020 model, which is $39,023.23, and that would be charged to the wastewater improvement fund.
What's the wish of the council?
I'll make a motion to amend and approve.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Zilka, second by Councilmember Knopfler. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. President, so Greg, basically this money has already been approved for this vehicle, other than the $291 and some cents. So that's basically all we're looking at as an increase on this, right?
That is correct, and that's still within the budgeted amount. When we include both the pickup and the crane, we're still within that budgeted amount that we estimated for this year's vehicle.
Call the roll, please.
Yes.
Knappala,
Yes.
Wildegren,
Yes.
Lundberg,
Yes,
Zilka,
Yes.
Hurkah,
Yes?
Dorley,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
carries.
Agreement and consent, code violations and nuisance conditions. 1101 Northeast 7th Avenue, approve unauthorized. Melissa?
Thank you, Council President. Council members, this is a consent agreement that would allow the city to go in and remove the nuisance conditions at the property located at 1101 7th Street Northeast, which has been a problem property for a number of years. The agreement was signed already by the owner. It allows the city to go in on November 23rd. If the owner has not abated the nuisance at that point, it also has the owner waiving all rights to appeal or to challenge the assessment of the cleanup if they should not pay it and it is assessed through the statutory process. This is a problem property. This is pretty much the best thing we can hope for, if not for the owner to clean it up themselves, is to agree to have us do it and to pay for it, which is why we are recommending that the council approve and ratify the agreement tonight.
What is the wish of the council?
Move to approve, please.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Knappala, second by Councilmember Lundberg. Any discussion? Call a roll, please.
Knappala,
Yes.
Wildegren,
Yes.
Lundberg,
Yes,
Zilka,
Yes.
Hurkah,
Yes?
Storley,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bushing,
Yes.
carries.
Health insurance renewal, approved. John or Michaela?
I can start. Thank you, Council President. As we talked about a little bit in the work session, Sourcewell provides a lot of different services for us, and as both the Council President and Mayor are aware, because they sit on the Board of Trustees that that Sourcewell has that oversees the health insurance, group health insurance offerings that are available to us. Our plan, the renewal offering that they had for 2021 includes a 4.22% increase to the premiums. While I think it's just only some minor changes to the plan offering itself. So this is a Smart Plan 3, which is the same as what we initiated last year with our groups. The premiums themselves, the contribution that we have as the employer and the employee, that's based on what's negotiated into our contracts, how much money and contributions that we make. So that's still in discussion. So right now, just this renewal itself is just what the city is going to have as the plan offering for employees for 2021. There is a really I'd say nice perk to this, whereas in 2022, because we're on one of the smart plans already, there will be a cap of 9% to any premium increase that we would otherwise be we'd be in line for if our utilization required us to have an increase. So that the renewals themselves are based on individual performance as well as performance of the group. So this is one thing that I think that was really attractive to us to be able to have that, considering that in the last 4 years we've had 3 renewals that have exceeded that 9% number. So so for us, I think this would be a great bargaining tool in our contracts and our agreements to talk about with the groups and what we can negotiate in terms of our employer contribution versus what we're going to ask for the employees to contribute as well. So I really recommend that we move forward with this as the renewal option and continue our negotiations to make a determination of what that final premium contribution split is going to be between the employer, the city, and the employees.
What is the wish of the council?
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the health insurance renewal.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Hanson, second by Councilmember Storey. Any discussion?
Mr. President, maybe Alyssa can answer this. Are the president and I able to vote on this? I am compensated by Sourcewell. And I believe Brad only gets mileage.
No, I get
Okay,
time as well.
okay.
If it is a, council president, mayor, generally speaking, if there is a type of conflict that you see and you feel it's in your best interest to recuse yourself from the vote, that would certainly be appropriate in this instance, given that you are compensated by the provider of this service and that other services were suggested during the process.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. President, I have a question. John, is there information out there that shows what our total costs were and what our total expenditures were towards these employees, so we can get a good look at, what's going on with this money?
Yes, Councilmember Storley, there is a larger renewal packet that has confidential information. We don't get a breakdown of individual employees, but we get an aggregate of our group performance over the examination period. So that is information that I do have, and that we've gone over and reviewed, and agree that, based on the performance and utilizations, we're more in line for what this increase would be.
Okay, is there any way, I know you can't do it on an individual person-to-person basis, but is there any way you could email me that so I can kind of take a look at it?
Sure, yes.
Call the roll, please.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Lundberg,
Yes,
Zilka,
I'll abstain.
Hurkacz,
I will abstain as well.
Storley,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bushik,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
carried.
Police personnel. Number one, temporary assignment, Mitch Morse, full-time patrol officer, approved. Chief.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. Tonight I will be requesting authorization to hire Mitchell Morse as a temporary full-time patrol officer. He would be filling a vacancy created by an employee that's been on restrictions, and those restrictions now appear to be long-term. So he would fill that vacancy. Mitch is currently part-time with the department and going through a training process, but he's working out well.
What is the wish of the council?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Storey, second by Councilmember Hildebrand. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Lundberg,
yes,
Zilka,
Yes.
Hurkacz,
Yes.
Storley,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bushik,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
carried.
Appointment, Brian Lindquist, part-time patrol officer, approved. Chief.
I would be requesting authorization to hire Brian Lindquist as a part-time patrol officer. He was a part of the hiring process when we created our eligibility list, and he is the next person on that list.
What is the wish of the council?
I'll make a motion for Brian Lindquist.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Liljegren, second by Councilmember Knopfler. Any discussion?
I have a really quick question here, Mr. President. I'm just, when we look at the request form, one thing that jumps out at me is the salary, and just, I mean, knowing Brian a little bit from the golf course, I kind of know his background. Would a part-time patrol officer with that kind of experience, do they start at the bottom step level for this?
He would start at that step, yes. There's nothing in the contract as related for that.
Okay.
So that's where he would start.
Okay, well, when he applied for it, I felt that I should ask about that.
Yeah, no, I agree, but yes, that's where he would start.
Okay, thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Zilka,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes?
Dorley,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Bushik,
Yes.
Knopfler,
Yes.
Liljegren,
Yes.
Lundberg,
Yes.
carried.
Anyone have any reports on any commissions, committees, or bureaus? Anyone have any announcements? Then we will recess to a closed meeting pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05, Subdivision 3A, Annual Evaluation of Performance of our City Administrator at 7:56.
Brad, and that's at a different Zoom link.
Yes, I believe we have to do that.
Okay. And after you return, you intend to adjourn the meeting, so we will be ending our live stream feed and not restarting it.
Correct. We will only be coming back into session to adjourn.
Mayor,
Thank you.